University of Pittsburgh has a long history of transformative research across all disciplines, from medicine to social work and from music and philosophy to STEM. What is happening here is really energized and it's leading to new knowledge every day.
For every point on the scholarship spectrum, somebody somewhere has a great idea that they want to be starting. So the goal here is to grow new ideas and initiatives, especially that bridge the scholarship that's done at the university to the broader world.
What's exciting to think about are the ways that we can promote these new and excellent projects that bring together scholars and researchers from across the university, united in a great desire to discover and make an impact.
The Momentum program allows us to lift up and strengthen creative ideas and provide opportunities for faculty to come together in new and interesting ways, and especially to engage with the community.
This year, in response to the crises of 2020, we encouraged a range of interdisciplinary theoretical and methodological approaches to address social injustices. And the proposals were exceptionally innovative, creative, cross-disciplinary, and boundary stretching. All the characteristics we are intent on nurturing among Pitt's researchers.
The program offers broad scope and tiers of support to encourage all faculty from all disciplines and all career levels, for people who want to start new things with something relatively small, to people who want to come together in interesting new collaborations and teams, to people who want to go after the big home run kind of an effort. The tiers actually support all of those levels of activity. Ann and I want to encourage the pursuit of new challenges, new ideas, new cross connections among the faculty, and the Momentum funds are specifically designed to support projects at all of those levels of ambition.
The projects we are funding this year are certainly poised to be transformative in their impact. We want the university to continue to shine as a leader in research and discovery, but most importantly, we want the work we do to impact the world around us. Our impact can and should continue to be felt locally, nationally, and internationally.
We're excited to engage with people pitching ideas that continue Pitt's tradition of extraordinary, creative, boundary-pushing thought and innovation.
Our people, their expertise and their ideas are our deepest strength. By investing in the deep talent we have across so many disciplines, we experience a win-win for our university, our local community, the nation, and the world.
Teaming grants exist to allow groups to do the capacity building in the stages of a newer project. Just the simple act of deciding who you want to partner with, who you want to collaborate with, what areas of the scholarship spectrum you need to bring together, that turns out to be a substantial amount of work. And so one of the tiers of the Momentum funding platform is just a year-long grant to allow people to build the teams and see what's what and what partnerships are necessary to move things forward. And these teams benefit from socializing their work to expand the collaboration networks and to develop the plans to scale things up to build a larger scale initiative. And so the level of funding is all about building a team with the necessary expertise to compete at the highest level.
Whenever you look at our electric power grids, whether from big system design all the way down to electric vehicles, three of the major components that you'll see in those are inductors, transformers, and electric machines. The problem is there's not enough people being trained on both facets, from power engineering to magnetic material design, to ultimately design these products that go into future grids. AMPed, the power program at Pitt, it shows that you could truly work on novel things with industry as a whole. And you want industry to be engaged because you want to be training students correctly for what they're going to be seeing.
I think that the need has become so important with electric vehicles and with renewables and hybrid electric aviation and electric ships. And as we're seeing all of those things happen, this has become something that's not just a shame that the field's not moving forward, it's something that's really important. So I really feel like what we're trying to do is to help solve a national problem by putting this together. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing continued steady momentum, no pun intended, building as we move forward with it.
There's been a sea change in the field of empirical legal studies. Law professors have been doing research based on legal texts in cases or statutes for a long time, but they always had to process the texts manually. But now there has been a lot of progress in legal text analytics, which means applying machine learning and natural language processing to extract information from text. The field of empirical legal research has sort of recognized that, as the title of this book says, law as data, a new way of looking at legal statutes, regulations, and decisions of courts, looking at them as data and analyzing them and drawing conclusions about interesting hypotheses, seeing whether trial court judges feel obligated to cite authoritative sources more than appeals court judges. There are just a lot of interesting questions that we can now answer doing this kind of analysis.
This project is focused on developing a youth action research collaborative for Latinx youth in Pittsburgh. It's a joint collaboration between Casa San Jose and the University of Pittsburgh. And the goal is really to develop a space for Latinx youth to learn about research and to learn how to use research to advance and promote social justice. And the goals of the project are to develop this group, which builds off of a group that Ben has already developed called the Fly Group.
So the Fly Group is comprised of students from basically freshman year to senior year. And they're all who identify as Latinx or Latino within the community of Pittsburgh. And really the goal and the aim behind it is activism and into social justice.
For Latinx youth, it's a safe space for them to reflect on their lived experiences, the challenges that they face in Pittsburgh, which is a new growth immigrant community, so it doesn't really have all the structural supports that more established communities do. But we're trying to consider this multi-level approach.
So my research interest is on osteoarthritis, which is a really painful and disable disease. So it won't like a cancer, they can kill people, but still they significantly impair our life quality, right? So you feel pain and you cannot run, you cannot walk. Our solution is to try to develop a human cell derived and three-dimensional and a multi-tissue chip. So we put it together to make a microphysiological joint. We call it knee joint on a chip. So we try to use this type of the new tool to develop the drugs. So we're trying to introduce drug into the system to see how the tissue responds. So by this way, and we really can dissect the different the influence of tissue on the disease, like pathology or like a treatment efficacy.
Part of a team that's doing a project called Freedom Dreaming, Black Communal and Familial Education Processes in Pittsburgh's Hill District. It's a collaboration between the Center for Urban Education, the Center on Race and Social Problems, and the Hill District Community Engagement Center, the CEC. The goal really is to focus on, in particular, the pedagogy. So what were the pedagogical practices of Black communities prior to COVID-19? We really identified the problem, as it were, in a few different ways. And so the discussions that we've been having are really centered around how do we make this a valuable contributive project for young people, for their families, for different community organizations and people within the Hill District community. What we've really been looking at is how do we make sure the research is contributive from day one. One of the great things about the community engagement centers at Pitt is that's part of the work that they're doing. They already have community boards. They already are very embedded so as not to be not only not extractive, but not replicative of services that are already happening in the community.
The Momentum project will help us to advance the study of the novel technology to help reduce language barriers for budding deaf scientists. In addition, it will help our team collect preliminary data that we will use in grant proposals to seek funding for further research on how to remove barriers to STEM for deaf and hard of hearing.
The field of STEM has been around for centuries. However, access to this discipline by the deaf community has been restricted. We are now seeing a slow paradigm shift with a growth of new aspiring scientists. This study will contribute to this growth of aspiring deaf students and scientists. We will tap into the expertise of deaf scientists and language instructors to create a positive impact while contributing to that research.
So the Momentum funding is going to help us to test our pilot technology and see if it helps reduce language barriers for up and coming deaf scientists.
I led a team that applied for the Momentum Funds grant to build a new transdisciplinary water equity team at Pitt. And we were extremely excited that we received this funding opportunity. Some of the preliminary research that folks have done as part of the Pittsburgh Water Collaboratory suggests that some folks are spending upwards of 30% of their entire income on their water bills. We just don't know too much right now about water affordability and how the challenges that face Pittsburgh residents create undue burdens to equal water access. We realized from prior work that we have done and community consensus building that we did not have the expertise and skills to understand how complex water challenges are. We started conversations about how we can potentially investigate and impact change with regards to water equity.
Our project is really focused on how race and ethnic discrimination may impact brain development. We know these things from really big, large epidemiological studies with tens of thousands of people, but we don't really know why. Why is it that this happens? Thinking about these experiences of discrimination as psychosocial stressors, chronic psychosocial stressors. And if you use that kind of frame, we know that chronic social stress, social evaluation, kind of social hierarchies can really start to have these kind of mental health effects. They can also start to cause different forms of physiological dysregulation, sometimes make your heart race a little faster, your blood pressure be a little bit higher. And we think over time that this could impact the brain and its development. There are so many people on Pitt's campus working on important issues related to the early environment and early stressful experiences, and broadly how experience can influence your brain and your behavior.
The scaling grants exist to support the problems that will solve the most pressing problems in society, the biggest, hardest grand challenge kinds of problems that require the most diverse group of faculty partners and faculty collaborators, and that will necessarily involve a significant collaboration beyond the university. So teams draw on their shared expertise to see the early stages of a large-scale project start, nucleate, come together, and then level up the work through outreach beyond the university. The investment beyond the university is one of the things that makes these projects unique. The other thing that makes them unique is this is a multi-year grant of funding, because when one is competing at the largest scale, some of these ideas, networks, external collaborations, these things can take years to actually put together a competitive team. And so the scaling grants exist to fund these things at this significant scale. And these projects create partnerships that give the community also an equitable piece of the project design and participation.
The Justice Scholars Institute is a college prep experience for students in Pittsburgh. We are specifically working with schools that are in some of the most marginalized communities in Pittsburgh to try to bring a college experience to those students. Our process is to come into partnership with the schools very intentionally to build this collaborative mindset around how to best support college access for students in the schools. And we've been engaging primarily up to now in the Homewood community specifically, which is an area that Pitt is very committed to and has a community engagement center located here in this neighborhood. So our research focus is looking at partnerships that exist with school districts, also looking at teacher training processes, and also thinking about how we're able to really support post-secondary success for all students in Pittsburgh. So this funding from the Pitt Momentum Award supports our expansion, and so we're able to move and expand to 2 additional schools, and we're also able to build in some research components to really have a good understanding of how to do the work well, and how also to be sure that the way they're going about the work is really engaging communities in effective ways.
So the story with this particular project, titled Promoting Trustworthiness of the COVID-19 Vaccine Among Black and Brown Communities, stems actually from the impact and the profound impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on our Brown and Latinx communities in particular. But one issue that is often lifted up is mistrust of the healthcare system among Black and Latinx individuals. What do we need to do to make the system more trustworthy? This project is a research project in that we are posing this concept of trustworthiness as a question. What does that look like? And we're asking our community members to teach us, to help us learn together what trustworthiness looks like. And we will do so through surveys, through interviews, but really listening to and in partnership with community members.
I want to extend my deep appreciation and admiration and excited expectations to this year's awardees. Rob Rutenbar and I could not have been more impressed with the proposals we received and which were ultimately chosen for funding, which just underscores the point that research and great ideas live in every area of the university. I also want to note that the work of the reviewers on these proposals was really amazing. We could not have done it without them.
Working on the Momentum Funds program every year, deciding on the structure of the call, reading the proposals, actually seeing the pitch teams come together to sort of pitch their final proposals is one of the funnest things that I actually get to do as a senior vice chancellor every year. So I'm just enormously grateful for the level of support and interest in the program. We hope that together we can grow the enthusiasm for interdisciplinary scholarship and cross-connecting research, and especially research of impact that affects positive change with the community and beyond.
Warm congratulations to this year's award winners, and I wish them the very best in their work in the months ahead as they explore and realize their projects.
Thank you all for a really exciting opportunity to see some incredible, remarkable new ideas as part of the Pitt Momentum program.
A final congratulations and well wishes to the winners.